Okay, we're now live on YouTube.
Okay, thank you for that. Good evening and welcome to the Broadland Cabinet meeting. Please be aware that this is a public meeting and is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. Also remind you to be aware of your backgrounds and background noise. So again, wherever possible, if you can mute yourselves, then that will be helpful to reduce the amount of background noise. If you wish to speak, it's easier, I'm finding, if you raise your hand on the participants list, then that stays there and I can call you in at the appropriate time. Other than that, all of the other usual etiquette rules of virtual meetings stand. We haven't changed any, so we will be proceeding in the usual manner. And again, if there's anything you particularly want to raise, obviously you can do so using chat, or if you just want to ask a question, again, if raising the hand, using the hand in the participants doesn't work, then let's say by all means use the chat to do that as the alternative. Okay, so if we kick off, first thing is to do the roll call and also the declarations of interest. So is that with you, James?
It is. Chair.
I need to connect.
If I run through your names, Councillor Copplestone.
Present. I've been in receipt of the business support grant under the tourism and hospitality. Thank you.
Councillor Emsall.
Here, nothing to declare.
Councillor Leggett.
Present. No declarations.
Councillor Mancini Boyle.
Present and no declarations.
Councillor Vincent.
Present and no declaration.
And Councillor Wymark.
Present, nothing to declare.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for that. That then moves us on then to the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of June. Hopefully you will have those before you. They start on page 6. A few things that we covered last time relating to the review of our budgets for 2021 and also the Armed Forces Covenant and the temporary change of the housing allocation policies. Is there anything in the minutes that anyone needs to change, update or make comment to? If not, I'll sign those off as a true record. Okay, I'm seeing no indication that there's an issue, so I will sign those off as a true record. So thank you, anyone. Are there any matters arising for anybody in the minutes? No.
Chair, we've got a question from Joe Copplestone.
Oh, Joe, sorry, Joe, do you want to come in?
Sorry, Emma, that it was a question on minute 141, the overview and scrutiny meeting and work programme of the 30th of June. So I think that's after cabinet minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, that will be. Okay, we'll come back to you at that point in time. Are there any matters arising for anybody out for the minutes? No. Okay, moving on to public speaking. I don't believe we have any, James.
There's no public speaking.
No, thank you. And representative from non-cabinet members. We have a couple in tonight. So if you do feel you want to speak, again, please, if you could raise your hand or let me know through the chat, and I'm quite happy to let you in at the appropriate time. So please do that. That moves us on then to overview and scrutiny committee. So Steve, did you want to come in here?
Thank you, Sean. Yes, on items 8, 9 and 10, for expediency in terms of time, I don't need to amplify anything there. The recommendations are in line with the officer's recommendations to Cabinet, but I would like to amplify reasoning around our amendments on the recommendations on item 10, on item 11, temporary payment licensing on and on the review of legal services, item 13, Sean, at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you for that, Tony.
Steve.
Sorry, Steve. Wait till Tony comes on. I've got a new name here as well. Okay, so moving on then. So sorry, Joe, you had something you wanted to ask on the overview and scrutiny minutes?
Thank you, Chair. It was to do with minute 141, the Overview and Scrutiny Committee work programme. I note that the Chairman, together with the Vice Chairman and Councillor Kelly, would like to undertake a scoping process to assess a review of water management in the district. I just want to advise them that I sit on Water Resources East on behalf of the Broads Authority, and there is a programme going forward to look at water supply to Norwich in the next sort of 50 years or so. And that piece of work is being done by Norfolk County Council, and I believe there has been some European money to fund that. But I would like to sort of advise them to look on Water Resources East website, because there is a document of their forward plans. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Joe. I'm sure that the overview and scrutiny panel or committee will take that on board and consider that and part of the work that they're doing when they're scoping those things. Okay, so that moves us on then to item number 8, which is our recovery plan, which is on page 22 you have before you, with the document itself starting on page 26. Again, what we've got here is the picking up where we sit following the COVID-19 crisis, and it's about the council working together with the South Norfolk Council in driving forward the recovery across the 2 districts and stepping up and making things work in a better way. So Sinead, I think you're presenting this one tonight, are you?
Sorry, Sean, I'm going to.
Oh, it's you, Hannah.
For Sinead, if that's okay, Chairman, thank you. So I think you've given a really good overview there, Sean, in terms of the focus of the report. So what we're asking for today is for Cabinet's recommendation to Council to endorse the recovery plan, and then therefore the subsequent update of the 2020-21 delivery plan, which sets out the Council's key priorities and focus areas for the rest of the year. As you are more than aware, there's been an incredible response, not only in the council, but community, business, volunteers to COVID, and the incredible response that's been put in place to put our communities and businesses in the best possible position, given the extraordinary circumstances that we're operating in. Whilst the pandemic is still with us, we're now shifting to a more of a response and recovery phase to start to look at the longer term impacts in terms of our businesses and communities, and also organisationally how we can best support that. So within the report that you have in front of you, there's a 6-point plan for our recovery response, which focuses around those main areas around community, economy and organisation and governance. And within there, we've set out short, medium and long-term actions and priorities to support us in our recovery and response. And we're also asking for you to endorse the review of the delivery plan for the remainder of the year, recognising that many of our activities will be the same, but there may be some areas where priorities and focus has shifted in response to COVID, and to be able to pick that up in our delivery plans would be really helpful. So in terms of overview and scrutiny, there were some typographical errors that were picked up as part of scrutiny's review of the report, and we're proposing to pick that. We can pick that up as part of the report to council if members are supportive of that. I think that's most of what I was going to cover, Chem, if I want to hand back to you.
Okay, thank you for that, Hannah. Yeah, it did. The report itself really does highlight what a phenomenal job that the team have done in taking what has been, I don't think I've said it for a few days, unprecedented times, a really difficult situation, you know, across the world, and dealt with the impacts both across Norfolk and across the district. And it is just, you know, hats off to the team and the way that they've stepped up and done that. And also then now looking forward to the way in which we recover and again take the lead in driving forward the different aspects of that recovery. And while we've, as you say, we've got the 6-point plan, both covering short, medium and long-term aspects. I'm sure there'll be other things that we add into the plan as we go forward. But yeah, it's good to see that it's being driven forward in this sort of way. Were there any questions from anyone? I noticed, Trudy, you've got your hand up. Did you want to come in?
I have, thank you. Thank you, Sean. Just a couple of things really that I wanted to bring up that I'm really happy to see in there. Page 33, I'm pleased some time ago we revised our contract standing orders, and I'm really pleased to see we're going to carry on the work of trying to adopt a simpler process across the whole of Norfolk so that we can hopefully get some local businesses in doing some work for us. And the other one I'm pleased to see in there is on page 38, again, the longer term, reviewing the council's development company structures, so to ensure we can deliver a number of properties in line with our aims and ambitions. So they're the couple of things that I pointed out, the longer term, I'm really happy to see in there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Trudy. Fran, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I just lost contact for a short while there, but no, there are a couple of things I wanted to highlight, and I was so pleased about the way the Help Hub and obviously the Community Hub developed and supported our communities, and also they're looking to build community links now to actually continue supporting people in the future. So that was really, really important. I think it's fantastic work, but also going forward as well, in the organisation and governance here, that we're actually looking to train our staff to support the well-being of their teams. So that's really important, and also get some more mental health first aids. I think it'd be really important going forward. So I was really, really pleased to see them. So I just want to say excellent work.
Thank you for that, Fran. And I think also on page 30, where it really highlights the challenges that we face over the coming months as we go forward. So yeah, interesting times ahead. So if there are no other questions, we'll move on then to the recommendations, which are on page.
Sorry, Chairman. Councillor Emsall has said he wants to say a few words.
Okay, thank you, Emma. Jonathan?
Yeah, I believe this is an excellent document. It covers so much ground on what we've achieved and how we've worked as a council. I think the team should all be really pleased with the way that they have worked, and also how we move forward, the recovery for business and our communities. And I think this document is well put together so that everybody can understand it, and that will be good to have that moving forward.
Okay, thank you for that, Jonathan. Okay, so recommendations are on page 25, 71, 72. As I say, both the recommendations are from Cabinet to Council. Can I have your agreement to those? I believe we have to now do the roll call thing. So over to you, James.
Thanks. Councillor Copleston.
Yes, for the recommendations, thank you.
Councillor Emsall.
For.
Councillor Leggett.
For.
Councillor Mancini Boyle.
For.
Councillor Vincent.
For.
And Councillor Wymark.
For.
That's unanimous. Thank
you, James. Okay, so we'll move those on to the Cabinet, onto the Council recommendations, So that moves us on then to the next item, which is the Broadland business plan. Item 9, starting on page 42. And who's presenting this one this evening? Is it you, Emma? Okay, over to you.
Brilliant. So that will be between me and Rodney. So just to let Cabinet members know, we're here today to present the quarterly performance report for Q4 of the 2019-20 element of the Broadland business plan. So this report covers the period of January through to March 2020. Obviously, the latter end of that when COVID then obviously appeared within the organisation, and is therefore the last report within the current business plan. As from April, obviously, we have the new delivery plan, which was adopted, and therefore future reporting moving forward will be in line with that new delivery element. The report itself can be found on pages 42 to 90 of the Cabinet papers, and it asks Cabinet to note performance and note the financial position. The report itself is made up of the following three elements, of which we're going to give you a brief overview today and open for questions. The first is a summary view of our financial position and current recommendations. The second, in Appendix 1, you'll find from pages 49 to 88, covers the detail of how the Council has delivered against its 17 objectives, supporting its 6 ambitions outlined within the business plan. And the final appendix covering pages 89 to 90, which goes into a bit more detail on those financial variances. So at this point, I'm just going to hand over to Rodney to give a brief overview of our financial position as at year end.
Thank you very much. So just like to point out to start with the revenue outturn position, which is very much in paragraph 5.3 on page 45. So overall, the Council had a favourable variance of £2.8 million. Basically means we're £2.8 million better off than we expected when we originally set the budgets. So the reasons for these changes is very much set out in paragraph 5.4, and the largest one being the additional 1.3 million in the Section 31 grant for business rates, which we were reporting throughout the year. To put this into context, what we're actually talking about is at the start of the year, we're expecting to take £2 million from our general fund reserves. But in actual fact, at the end of the year, we've been able to add to our reserves by about £1 million. So essentially the Council's general fund reserve has gone from 14.3 million at the start of the year to 15.3 million. So actually this shows that we are in a good solid position as the Council going forward. The second element just want to point is the capital outturn. So very much this section 6 of the report on page 46. So our capital expenditure was £4.4 million in the year compared to the budget of £5.7 million. And the table and paragraph 6.2 sets out on a scheme by scheme basis all the expenditure scheme by scheme. And the third point just want to mention is about the longer term. So obviously this is all about the performance for Q4, but I think we do just need to put into context of the COVID-19 has happened, and therefore in line with sort of a good practice and prudency, we did review our budgets for 2021 and they were considered by full Council on the 30th of June. And that was what I was going to really say about the Council budgets, but obviously willing to answer questions.
Okay, so are there any questions for Rodney on that particular piece? Trudy, you got your hand up.
Actually, no, it's probably moving forward actually on the second part, but I can do the sort of finance bit because they're appendices to Rodney's comments anyway. So it's up to you, Chair, if you'd like me to do the couple of bits that I wanted to do regarding the finance.
Do you want to do those now then?
Yeah, yes, that's fine. I just wanted to mention really it is the moving forward, as Rodney has said. Obviously on page 75, our collection rates have been excellent, but that could be under threat moving forward. I know they're standing up quite well at the moment, particularly the council tax rates, but that is, I think, a fairly high risk to the council. But I also just wanted to highlight that I think many of you will remember that some time ago we moved some funds into a different investment fund because we hadn't been happy for some time with the performance. And it's quite nice to see now that we have got a significantly better return than we were expecting before. And just the other thing that at the moment we haven't come up with any new income streams, but I know that's something that we're all quite keen to work on now, and hopefully, as long as we don't get a second phase, hopefully we can all concentrate on looking at alternative forms of investment moving forward. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Trudy. Are there any questions? Sorry, Emma, did you want to finish going back to you on the other part of the report?
If there's no other questions on finance, yes, we can take questions on elements pages 49 to 88. That's relating to the 17 detailed objectives and associated measures. Okay, so you don't want to go blow by blow? Entirely up to you, Chair.
No, not tonight. We'll let the portfolio holders raise any particular elements that they may want to discuss. So, I mean, from a point of view of looking at the report, it picks up as you say, the quarterly aspects for the year, and as such, this is the last time we'll see it in this format. And as we've said before, it is quite a big document, but it does still portray a position and where we sit and how well the different parts of the council are performing. So is there any questions from the portfolio holders? So Judy, you want to go first?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry for the pause. I couldn't unmute myself. I just want to remind readers that indeed the waste figures are a quarter behind. So whilst they're all very favourable, I'm not quite sure what the impact of COVID will be when we get the quarter four for waste. And the other thing that obviously COVID has stopped us doing is being innovative in ways to decrease the contamination rate, which is rather vital to us to improve our recycling rates. And that's really all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Judy. Yeah, I guess the expectation with large numbers of us being at home is that we would have generated more waste, and on a positive, hopefully some more recycling. So that will be seen as a positive aspect of that, hopefully. Joe, you wanted to come in.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment on objective 1 and 2. I just want to say how well the figures are reflected and just sort of stress the importance of supporting our businesses and enabling growth. Also, with objective 2, supporting our local communities and driving growth in the economy and jobs is going to be more and more important as people come off furlough. And our recovery plan next stage, we're going to discuss that for economic development at our economic success panel tomorrow evening, if anyone would like to have a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Joe. Steve, you wanted to ask something, although you seem to have gone. Oh no, back in 2 minutes. Sorry,
yeah, back in 2 minutes.
No, I actually read what it says in the chat rather than just saw his name. Okay, so are there any other points or any other questions? No. Okay, well, I'd just like to again thank the officers for pulling together the reports and illustrating again just how amazing the work that they've done has been over the last quarter, despite what the world's thrown at them. So again, thank you for all that you've done, and the way in which it's manifested itself in the delivery of the services and the results that show there from that to our residents. So on behalf of them and of all of the members, thank you for what you've done. The recommendations are on page 48, 9.1a and 9.1b. Again, as it's just a recommendation from Cabinet, do we need to do a roll call on this one, Emma?
Oh, sorry, Chair, I was on
That's
mute.
all right.
You're noting the position, so no need for a roll call, Chair.
Okay, so if I could just ask everyone to perhaps raise their hand in the participant list just to indicate, or do it manually. Yeah, the manual one works as well. See, I've confused it now. We've got a mix. We've got a real mix going on. Let's see if we can make the participant list work. So we've got 3 in there now. 4.
Jonathan's concentrating, Chairman.
Yeah, he's going for it.
He's failed. 5.
I think that looks fairly unanimous. There.
Oh,
God,
yeah.
yeah,
We're all there.
He's made it.
We're all
Okay.
there.
So yeah, don't do that again. Sorry. Okay, so that one's carried. That moves us on then to the next item on the agenda, which is the environmental strategy on page 91. Who does this sit with? Who's presenting this one tonight?
Chair, I'm happy to, if it's Phil Court here, if I just say a few words, and then I think Deborah Bailey-Murden is also here. She can give greater insight.
Okay, over to you then, Phil.
Thank you very much. So you'll be aware, you've seen this evolving over the last few months. We have a strategy that is coming before you now, having gone through obviously all the panels and ONS. The strategy that you have in front of you divides into 6 sections. That includes sustainable communities, clean and safe environment, energy efficiency, waste minimisation, transport and sustainable procurement. And under each section is clearly a commentary, but also asking what are we going to be doing, but also how can residents help us moving forward. Appended to it is an action plan, very deliberate. I'll probably hand over to Deborah at that point just to talk you through some more of the detail of it.
Okay, thank you, Phil. So the action plan is intended to be a living document. So this will be mainly used by the officers and the members so we can assess our progress and see how we're moving along the line. The only other thing I wanted to add is that the environment has been considered as a key part of the post-COVID recovery, and BEIS have announced the 3 billion of green homes grants, and we're liaising with the local energy hub as to how or when we might be able to access any of this funding. But apart from that, any comments specifically on the strategy?
Okay, thank you for that. Judy, anything you want to add?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased that this strategy has got this far again. It's something that I know residents will be quite interested in, and I think lots of residents during the past few months have appreciated our green spaces in Broadland. I recommend the strategy to you, but I would like to just have 1 or 2 amendments. I think they're just within the document. There could be some presentation adjustments. And also a previous iteration of this had a section in what we've done to date, which I thought made very good reading. And I'd like to recommend that that is included again. I know that I have to acknowledge all the work done by Deborah and Ali before she went on maternity leave, and I do appreciate that they had to squeeze this in alongside their day job. I'd also like the sustainable investment added, which was in a previous iteration as well. I think that comes under the procurement section. I must also make a plea for resource and ask how is this going to be resourced, because now we've got the strategy, we do want to deliver, and this has been my theme all along. Let's us actually be judged by what we do, not by what we say. So I'm asking officers to actually let this have the resource it needs to draw all the strands together, because I think this probably hits every department within the council. So it wants it needs to be drawn together so we can judge how we're getting on, and also we can make sure that initiatives are actually happening. So with those few amendments, I'd like to recommend it to Cabinet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Fran, you wanted to ask a question?
No, sorry, Chairman. I had a problem with my connection, and it was actually the previous item 9 I was going to comment on about housing standards, but I'll leave that now. Thank you. I was going to thank the teams. I'll thank them anyway as I'm on. All the hard work they did. Thanks.
Thank you, Fran. Joe, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. This is a great piece of work, and I think our residents and communities will be hugely interested in this. I think we've got to think, as Judy said, we've really got to think about delivery of this, and I would like to know how this programme will be communicated to our residents and communities. I know several other councils have announced a climate emergency, and that has been the subject of public discussion. So I think getting this out there to our residents is hugely important. So will we have a sort of strategy to push this forward to our customers?
Okay, thank you for that, Joe. Can anyone come back on the delivery strategy for communications?
Yeah, I'm here, Sean. I can talk about that.
Evening, Catherine. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Please.
Yes, we once the strategy is signed off, we have a plan to turn it into a communications plan, and to take, I say we, it won't be me, but to take each section of it and use that as a good news story for the public. So yeah, there'll be a separate communication strategy around the environmental strategy.
Okay, thank you for that, Catherine. Okay, Joe, we've done. Okay, so that brings us then back to the recommendations that we've heard. So, question that was raised around the resource by the portfolio holder, is there anything that we can pick up or we need to do about that? I guess I need to look at you, Phil, on that one, or does that come to you, Trevor?
Sean, I'm happy to pick it up. Once the strategy is signed off, we'll look at the delivery plan and what resources are required. If we need to come back to you for additional resource, we'll do exactly that.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know that we're going to get on top of it as far as the delivery. So coming back to the recommendations then, so there's a recommendation in the report of number 1, followed by the additional ones that were raised by the portfolio holder around updating the amendments, the inclusion of what we've done so far to date, and the element around the sustainable funding. Have I got those right, Judy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless Councillor Massini-Ball would like to add to the funding concerning investment.
Trudy?
Yeah, I did have my hand up, Sean, but you didn't acknowledge it. So
it's one of those nights.
I know there is I have had a chat with Judy and Sean, and I'm guessing that we maybe need to get the finance team involved. There is such a thing as a local government green bond that I've heard quite a bit about, and it's about a bit of a crowdfunding thing for residents as well, and it's something that I think we're quite interested in. So that's one of the issues we wanted to look at moving forward, if that's okay with getting the teams together. Thanks.
Okay, so that's something we'd ask you to pick up as part of that sustainable funding or sustainable funds. Okay, so we have the recommendation, which is to cancel, so we'll need to do a roll call. James, over to you.
Chairman, Councillor Copplestone, can you confirm?
4.
Councillor Emsall.
4.
Councillor Leggett.
4.
Councillor Mancini-Boyle.
4.
Councillor Vincent.
4.
And Councillor Wymark.
4.
Thank you. That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you for that, James. That then moves us on to item 11, being the temporary pavement licensing. So who's putting this one forward?
Chairman, I think Phil Courtier is going to need to take this. Nick Howard's having problems joining the meeting. Phil, can you pick this up?
That's very kind of you, Emma. I'd love to pick this up. This may be the shortest presentation you've received for a while. So this is obviously arising as a result of COVID and the government response to COVID, and the fact that new legislation is being introduced for pavement licensing. That legislation has not gone through the full process yet, but in order to prepare for that coming out, then this report has come to you. There are, at this point in time, what we're envisaging with that legislation is that as people apply for pavement licensing, if the council does not respond within 14 days, within 2 weeks, then effectively that license would be granted to them anyway. And so what we're trying to do is set up a regime that enabled us to deal with those quickly, to respond to those applications. The recommendations are before you. There are a wide number of people that are being sought to be delegated authority to. That is, again, to allow for some resilience in taking into account the timescales of these applications, if people are on holiday or on leave. And because we don't necessarily know all the detail of that legislation yet, there are a number of officers listed there. There is a proposal for a £75 application fee based on a cost recovery basis. Clearly, if any decision we'll have is to approve, refuse or revoke pavement licenses. From recollection, and it is in the report, and I should know off the top of my head, this is a temporary facility, I think, until September next year. Probably at that point, I'm going to stop before I dig myself into any deeper hole with my lack of detailed knowledge of it, and hand back to you, Chair.
Oh, thank you, Phil, for your succinct report. But then, as you said, it was all in the papers. So thank you for that. Judy, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask for one or two amendments to the report. I think the word temporary should be inserted in several places because, as you've already said, this regulation will only go until September 2021. So there's at least on page 127 and definitely on page 133, if that could be done, please. And then looking at the form, I'm looking at, we wish to apply for a payment licence on the highway section in the Broadland or South Norfolk district. Perhaps it would just be clear if you put Broadland district or South Norfolk district.
We're on the item now, so I'll turn to you if needs be.
And the other thing is that on page 136, the fifth point down, there's been a trouble with the layout and part of that section of text is obscured. But otherwise, I would recommend this, and it will be great to enable people to go on the pavement and hopefully encourage business into our local restaurants, etc. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Judy. I'm sure that those minor amendments to the report can be made, Phil. So, if possible, I guess the main one's on the form itself that's to be used, just so that reads right. I have Steve Riley. You'd like to come in on this?
Thank you, Sean. Yes, we obviously see the need for this and welcome it. Actually, we're quite an upbeat conversation and debate and scrutiny on this. However, when we look at the situation it's trying to address, there are a number of restaurants which are fairly small, including some CAS, which are really only one operator in terms of the vendor, or two people employed, very small operations, not earning great deals of money. And in the current COVID situation, which of course this is all to do with, we felt that the fee at the moment it really should be waived, hence the amendment 1, which is to issue temporary payment license free of charge period of 6 months, because we are trying to help people as much as possible in this situation. They are under stress and strain, these operations, small restaurants and CAFs, and I know a few of these operators, and they are really stretched. So it was agreed at ONS to seek cabinet support for the amendment to go ahead with issuing the licenses, however, with a period of 6 months free of charge, Sean.
Okay, thank you for that, Steve. So you're talking about waiving the fee for 6 months of the...
Yes, because of the COVID situation, and some of these operations are very small, and they are stretched.
Okay, so thank you for putting that forward. Is there any feeling on that, Judy, Trudy?
I think when I was discussing this with the assistant director, it was a question I asked, and he felt that, looking at it as a piece, that this was a fair charge. It will cover the resources needed, but also would not make a significant impact on those accepted small establishments. So I'm quite confident about that charge is pitched correctly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess the other side of that is it does make a small trader think that it is worth doing and go into it seriously, rather than just a plethora of license requests come through. So I would be with you on that as far as leaving it at the £75 to cover our costs. I had a question again around the license usage, and it's just really a work in practice. So hopefully, Phil, you'll be able to answer my question. And it's to do with when we grant a license for someone to put, say, tables and chairs on the highway. Are they for exclusive use, or can they make it exclusive use, or are they just there and therefore anyone can use it? My concern, I guess, is where the question is coming from, is that we could find conflict between people arising through someone putting tables and chairs there and someone else making hay as such.
I have Nick on the phone next to me, so if I give a completely wrong answer, you might suddenly hear a muffled "What are you talking about, Phil?" So in terms of can they? I mean, ultimately, if they're on at the front of their premises, then they're under the control of the operators of those premises. So they can, if other people are coming along and sitting on those, then they have a degree of control over those chairs and seats. There's a question that someone else has raised, which is, well, what if we chose to put our tables and chairs out there? Can we have some control over who sits on there? I've got a thumbs up from Nick, which is okay. So that reassures me that it is the fact that if those tables and chairs are out the front of those premises, then whoever is operating those premises also has control over those tables and chairs. Is that the question you were asking, or is...
Yes, sort of. So it means that they're responsible for them, but they also have the ability to restrict who uses them, and therefore they can be exclusively used for their premises.
And if we extend that to ask about who has ultimate enforcement over that, if other third parties were using and abusing those tables and chairs, and the operator wasn't controlling that properly, then we have some enforcement powers over that.
Okay, thank you for that. If there are no other questions, I'll come back to the recommendations, which are on page 132, where the Cabinet agrees. Oh, Chair, that's 8.1, 1, 2, and 3. And I think in here, Judy also asked for the temporary word to be added onto 2.A, just to ensure that it was talking about the temporary payment license, just for completeness. So those are the recommendations. Again, as it's a Cabinet decision, we can all just raise our hands. So all those in favour, and let's do the proper one this time and see if we get there. So
And
yeah, we're all there. So yeah, everyone's in favour of that. So thank you. That then moves us on to the next item. So item 12 is the exclusion of press and public. So I move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining items of business, because otherwise information which is exempt by virtue of paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006, would be disclosed to them.